lot, especially these IEA excerpts.
Yeah.
The Global Hydrogen Review 2024.
It's a big one.
Looks like quite the treasure trove.
It is.
You're really interested in where hydrogen stands globally right now?
Yeah.
Like demand, production, trade?
Uh-huh.
Maybe even a glimpse into the future?
Definitely.
We'll get ready for a deep dive
Okay.
into the world of hydrogen.
Sounds good. It's a pretty fascinating landscape and changing fast.
So to kick things off, this report says hydrogen demand is a tale of two worlds.
Right.
What's that all about?
Oh, it shows the difference
Okay.
between traditional hydrogen uses
Uh-huh.
and the new stuff driven by clean energy.
Okay.
So global demand hit a record high in 2023,
Wow.
97 melogy.
Really?
And it's expected to almost hit 100 melogy in 2024.
So that's a lot of hydrogen.
Yeah, it is.
But this surge isn't mainly because of clean energy yet, right?
Not yet.
So where is all this demand coming from?
Good question.
If not clean energy, is it those old industrial processes?
You got it.
Okay.
Most of it's still dirty hydrogen from fossil fuels
Okay.
without capturing the emissions.
Oh, right.
Mainly used in oil refining and making ammonia and methanol.
So those big established industries.
Exactly.
Okay, so the old guard's still holding strong.
They are for now.
But the report did mention some exciting stuff.
Yeah.
There's that tiny but fast-growing demand
Right.
for low-emissions hydrogen.
That's the exciting part.
Okay.
It's less than 1% of total demand.
Huh.
But it grew 40% from 2022.
Really?
Yeah, that's a turning point.
Okay.
It shows clean hydrogen is breaking into those sectors
Okay.
that were dominated by fossil fuels.
Got it.
We're talking heavy industries and long-distance transport.
So areas that are ripe for decarbonization
Heck.
hold on less than 1%,
Yeah.
and everyone's getting excited.
I know, right?
That seems a bit premature.
It's all about the trajectory.
Okay.
That 40% growth shows the momentum building behind clean hydrogen.
Right.
And when you look at specifics, it's even more interesting.
Like what?
Fuel cell vehicles,
Okay.
especially trucks and buses, are gaining traction.
Okay.
There are still challenges.
Like what?
Refueling infrastructure, for one.
Uh-huh.
But it seems some companies are shifting their focus
Okay.
from cars to larger vehicles.
Ah, so instead of those little hydrogen cars,
Yeah.
it's the big rigs and buses making headway.
Exactly.
Interesting. So we've got this growing demand for low emissions hydrogen.
Right.
Where are we going to get it all from?
Good question.
Splitting water sounds great,
Yeah.
but can it really scale up to meet demand?
That brings us to hydrogen production.
Okay.
It's a showdown between electrolyzers and fossil fuels,
Okay.
but with a twist.
Twist.
Electrolyzers.
Yeah.
They use electricity to split water.
Right.
Those are definitely the rising stars for low emissions hydrogen.
So how are they doing?
Their capacity is booming.
Really?
Yeah, and costs are expected to plummet,
By how much?
like 50-55% by 2030, just from scaling up.
That's impressive.
It is.
So it's not just about building more.
Right.
It's making them more efficient and cost effective.
Exactly.
And it's not one size fits all, right?
No,
There are different types of electrolyzers competing.
you got it.
Okay, so give us the rundown.
Alkaline electrolyzers are still the most common,
Uh-huh.
but PEM electrolyzers are catching up.
Interesting. So are there any other new technologies emerging?
Yeah, we're even seeing SOEC and AEM starting to emerge.
Wow. So it's a real race.
It is a race to see which tech comes out on top.
All right, so we have this tech race going on.
We do.
But what about fossil fuels?
Yeah.
Are they just going to disappear overnight?
That's where the twist comes in.
Okay.
The goal is to transition away from them,
Uh-huh.
but they're not going to vanish overnight.
Right.
Fossil fuels with carbon capture,
Okay.
or CCUS,
Yeah.
will still play a big role, at least for now.
So how much are we talking?
The IEA projects 11 MTPA of low-emissions hydrogen will come from fossil fuels with CCUS by 2030.
11 MTPA.
That's a lot of hydrogen.
And a lot of carbon being captured.
Exactly.
But this all begs the question.
Yeah.
How does the cost of green hydrogen from those fancy electrolyzers compare to hydrogen from fossil fuels?
Right.
Isn't green hydrogen supposed to be way more expensive?
It is for now.
Okay.
Green hydrogen is pricier than gray hydrogen.
The one from unabated fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Right? But we can't ignore gas prices.
True.
Remember that price spike in 2022?
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy.
It was.
Green hydrogen is tied to renewable energy,
Right.
so it offers more stable costs over the long run.
Exactly.
So even though there's a green premium now,
Uh-huh.
it's like an insurance policy against wild price swings.
A lot of people are betting on that.
Interesting. So they're looking past the immediate price tag and considering those long-term benefits.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's trace that green premium down the supply chain. The report uses steel and fertilizer as examples.
Right.
I know those are interesting to you.
They are. They show how the cost of green hydrogen can impact everyday things.
Okay.
Like take steel.
Uh-huh.
Making steel with green hydrogen could add $70 per ton.
Wow, that's a lot.
But here's the thing.
What?
By the time that steel ends up in a car,
Yeah.
it only adds $11 to the cost.
Wait, so the price increase shrinks
It does.
as the product moves down the supply chain?
It's because of the proportion of green hydrogen
Oh, okay.
in the final product.
Okay.
Like with steel, it's just one part of a bigger process.
Right.
So green steel is more expensive.
Yeah.
But its impact on a car's final price is small.
That's fascinating. But will consumers even pay that extra $11
That's the question.
for a greener car?
Yeah.
It's a small amount, but it could be a deciding factor.
Consumer behavior is key.
So will people pay a premium for green hydrogen products?
Right.
Or will they just go for the cheapest option?
It's a big question.
It seems like it depends on consumer awareness
Uh-huh.
and their willingness to prioritize sustainability.
Exactly.
And it's not just consumers, right?
No,
Governments and businesses matter too.
a lot.
We need policies and investments to make green hydrogen competitive.
It's a multi-pronged approach.
So everyone has a role to play.
Everyone.
All right. Before we get ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's go back to fertilizer.
Okay.
The report talked about Latin America.
They did.
They rely on imported fertilizer.
They do.
And I think you sent some stuff on this.
I did.
Latin America is a great example
It means
of
that-
how green hydrogen could change trade.
Yeah.
They import a ton of fertilizer.
Right.
And that depends on the price of natural gas.
Exactly.
Imagine if they made green ammonia locally
Okay.
using their renewable resources.
Interesting.
Instead of being at the mercy of gas markets,
Right.
they could make their own fertilizer
Uh-huh.
at a more stable price.
It's a win-win.
This is starting to show how hydrogen could reshape industries and global trade.
It really has the potential.
It's like we're on the edge of a new era where clean energy drives growth.
And global interdependence.
It's like a domino effect.
I like that.
One region goes green and others follow.
It's happening already.
Really?
We're seeing projects popping up everywhere.
That's exciting. Speaking of global scale,
Yeah.
the report mentioned hydrogen highways.
I love that term.
That sounds so futuristic.
It does.
What are those exactly?
It's basically networks of pipelines
Okay.
and infrastructure for transporting hydrogen.
Over long distances.
Exactly.
Connecting producers with consumers.
It's like a global clean energy network.
So we're not just talking local production?
Nope.
We're talking shipping it all over the world.
We are.
That seems complicated.
It is?
But the report says a global hydrogen trade network
Yeah,
is already forming.
it is.
And get this,
Huh.
1/3 of low-emissions hydrogen projects by 2030 are focused on exports.
A third.
Yeah, and for now, they're using ammonia to ship it.
It's easy to convert to hydrogen
So it's the preferred carrier for long distances.
for now.
So this isn't just some fringe idea.
Not anymore.
It's a core part of hydrogen's future.
It is.
What about infrastructure?
Okay.
Pipelines are the next big thing, right?
They are?
We have like 5,000 kilometers of hydrogen pipelines globally,
That's right.
but the vision is much bigger.
Think bigger.
Cross-continent pipelines,
Ah.
even offshore ones,
Connecting continents.
a truly interconnected hydrogen world.
It's coming?
Offshore pipelines sound really challenging,
They are.
technically and financially,
You're not wrong.
but the report talks about aqueductus,
Yeah.
that planned offshore pipeline.
Between Norway and Germany.
That's ambitious.
It shows the commitment.
To making this global hydrogen economy a reality,
For sure.
these projects are ambitious.
They are.
But pipelines aren't the only thing we need, right?
True.
What about storage? We can't just have hydrogen flowing constantly.
Yep.
We need somewhere to put it.
We do?
When demand is low,
Storage is key.
just like with natural gas.
Yeah. For balancing supply and demand.
So what are our options?
Salt caverns are ideal.
Okay.
Lots of space. And good for hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also looking at repurposing old gas fields.
Turning a liability into an asset.
Exactly.
And the report mentioned that offshore hydrogen platform.
Sea Life.
Right.
It's off the coast of France.
Yeah, it started operating last year.
It did.
It shows the ingenuity in this industry.
And the determination.
These aren't just concepts anymore. They're becoming real.
They are.
And from what we've seen so far,
Yeah.
Latin America seems well-positioned to be a major player in this hydrogen economy.
Absolutely.
This is where your insights are valuable.
Thanks.
They have huge potential,
They do.
abundant renewables, and a relatively clean grid already.
It's a good starting point.
So what role could they play globally?
Big question.
What are their strengths and opportunities?
Well, imagine them replacing imported fertilizer
Okay.
with locally made green ammonia.
Using their renewable resources.
Exactly.
Or picture them turning their iron ore
Yeah.
into high-value HBI for export.
Using green hydrogen.
Wow, capitalizing on their natural resources.
That's smart.
They could even decarbonize mining by using hydrogen to power those massive trucks
Reducing their environmental impact.
and boosting their economy.
It's a win-win.
The possibilities are vast.
They really are.
So they could become a powerhouse in the global market,
They could.
leveraging their renewable energy, natural resources, and infrastructure.
They have what it takes.
But I'm sure there are challenges, too.
Of course.
No region is perfect.
True.
What are some of the hurdles they face?
Well, the report says the cost of capital is higher there.
Compared to developed economies,
Right.
which could hinder investment in these big hydrogen projects.
That's a big one.
And their policies need to catch up. They need clear regulations and incentives.
To attract investment and foster innovation.
But if they get it right,
Yeah.
they could be a leading force
It could.
in this global hydrogen revolution,
Absolutely.
shaping the future of clean energy.
In setting an example for others.
This has been a fantastic overview
Thanks.
of hydrogen's current state globally.
It's a complex landscape.
We've covered demand production, the potential of green hydrogen,
Yeah.
even touched on that emerging global trade network.
It's fascinating.
But there's so much more to explore.
There is.
Maybe next time we can dive deeper into geopolitics.
Okay.
It seems like this hydrogen surge could have major consequences.
For global power dynamics.
Exactly. So let's take a short break
Oh.
and come back to unpack those implications in our next segment.
Sounds good.
This hydrogen journey is just getting started.
It is.
Okay, so we've established hydrogen's going to be big.
Yeah. It's a game changer.
But not all hydrogen is created equal, right?
True.
We keep talking about green hydrogen, but the report mentions blue and even turquoise hydrogen.
Right.
All these colors are making me dizzy.
The hydrogen rainbow can be confusing,
It can.
but it's important to understand the different ways to make it.
Okay.
So we've been focusing on green hydrogen.
From renewable energy.
Yeah. Via electrolysis.
Right, that's the gold standard for low emissions hydrogen.
It is.
But blue hydrogen is also going to be important.
Especially in the short term.
Okay, so blue hydrogen comes from natural gas.
Yeah. But with carbon capture and storage.
CCUS.
Exact.
So it's like a bridge technology,
You could say that.
using existing infrastructure,
Right.
but trying to capture those emissions.
Yeah.
But isn't it still reliant on fossil fuels?
It is.
Which seems kind of counterintuitive to this whole clean energy thing.
It's a fair point.
Blue hydrogen does raise some question.
About long-term sustainability.
Exactly.
But we have to remember the infrastructure is already there.
For natural gas.
Yeah. So blue hydrogen can scale up faster and cheaper. Plus, the CCUS tech is getting better.
So they say,
it'll capture almost all the emissions.
making blue hydrogen a viable option.
For some sectors at least.
Okay, so it's a pragmatic approach.
It is.
We can't just ditch fossil fuels overnight.
No, we can't.
But what about this turquoise hydrogen?
Now, that's interesting.
It sounds pretty exotic.
It is.
What's the deal with that one?
Turquoise hydrogen is the newcomer,
Okay.
and it's causing a stir.
How so?
It uses methane pyrolysis,
Okay.
which basically splits natural gas into hydrogen and solid carbon.
So no CO2,
Nope.
the carbon is solid.
Yeah, so you can capture it.
And maybe even use it for something.
Or sequester it.
So turquoise hydrogen sounds pretty good.
Environmentally speaking, it's great.
Yeah, no CO2 emissions, that's a big deal.
It is.
But what about the cost?
So there's the rub.
It's still experimental, right?
It is.
So it must be expensive.
It's more expensive than green or blue hydrogen right now.
Okay.
But there's a lot of research going into it.
To scale it up and bring the cost down.
Exactly.
So it could be a major player down the line.
Potentially.
So it's a waiting game to see which method wins.
It is a bit like a science fiction story unfolding.
It is. We'll have to wait and see.
Policy decisions, investments, consumer preferences will all play a role.
Speaking of policy decisions,
Yeah.
let's talk about those geopolitical implications.
But-
We've talked economics and technology.
Right.
But hydrogen could disrupt global power dynamics, too.
It could. It's not every day a new energy source comes along.
That can redraw the geopolitical map.
Exactly.
In the past, energy security was all about fossil fuels,
Which are concentrated in certain places
leading to dependencies.
and power imbalances.
But hydrogen can change that.
It could tag countries with lots of renewable energy.
A key ingredient for green hydrogen.
Could become the new energy superpowers.
So a power shift
Potentially.
from oil-rich nations to those rich in renewables.
It's possible.
The report said Latin America could be a hydrogen hotspot. We talked about their advantages,
Yeah.
but who else stands to benefit?
Countries like Australia, Chile, Morocco.
With all that sun and wind,
Exactly. They're already attracting investment for green hydrogen.
so they could become major exporters,
They could,
challenging those traditional fossil fuel exporters.
and changing global trade flows.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effects.
It is.
Could we see new alliances forming
Yeah.
based on renewables instead of oil?
It's possible.
Could this lead to greater energy independence,
For many countries,
reducing their reliance on those few fossil fuel suppliers?
those are the questions people are asking.
It sounds like a pretty optimistic vision.
It does.
Clean energy fostering collaboration.
And reducing tensions.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Couldn't this lead to new dependencies?
It could.
What if a few countries control green hydrogen production?
Creating new imbalances.
Exactly.
It's a valid concern. We need to be careful.
We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past.
No, we need to diversify supply sources.
So we don't rely too much on a few producers.
Exactly. International cooperation is key.
To ensure a balanced and resilient hydrogen market.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about who makes the hydrogen.
Right.
It's how it's traded and distributed globally.
We need a fair, equitable, and stable system.
That also encourages competition and innovation.
It's a balancing act.
And what about intellectual property
Oh, yeah.
and technological leadership?
The race for hydrogen tech is on.
Countries and companies want that edge.
They do.
Controlling key technologies like electrolyzers
Or storage solutions.
could be a new source of power.
It could.
So we're entering a new era of energy competition
It seems that way.
with big consequences for geopolitics and economics.
It's a complex landscape, for sure.
It is. Amidst all this geopolitics, let's not forget the environment.
The driving force behind this whole transition.
Exactly. The goal is a sustainable future.
Right.
We've talked about green, blue, and turquoise hydrogen.
Mhm.
Are they all equally good at reducing emissions?
That's a good point.
It brings us to emissions intensity.
Right.
We need to know how much emissions come from making hydrogen.
It varies depending on the method and the energy source.
The report uses green hydrogen production in Chile
Yeah.
to show how the timing of renewable energy and hydrogen production.
It can affect emissions.
So it's not just about having renewables,
No.
it's how you use them to make hydrogen.
It's all connected.
The report also said using grid electricity for electrolysis can be smart.
If you do it right.
No. Can you explain that?
Sure, using grid electricity can be good.
Okay.
If you do it strategically,
Okay.
it can help use excess renewable energy.
That might otherwise be wasted,
Exactly.
and it can stabilize the grid.
By providing a flexible demand source.
That responds to changes in renewable generation.
It's a win-win.
But we need good accounting methods
For sure.
to track the carbon footprint of hydrogen from grid electricity.
We need transparency and accountability,
So it's truly helping the climate.
not just greenwashing.
I like how the report goes beyond the hype
Me too.
and really digs into these issues
It gives a much better understanding of this transition.
than you usually see in the news.
It's a valuable resource.
It acknowledges the complexities and challenges.
But also the opportunities.
It's a multifaceted issue.
It is technology, economics, geopolitics, environment.
It's like a giant puzzle
I like that.
with all these pieces to consider
They need to fit together.
to create a sustainable picture.
A good analogy.
So as we navigate this transition,
Yeah.
what should we keep in mind?
The report emphasizes clear and consistent regulations
Okay.
for production trade infrastructure.
If we don't have that
It creates uncertainty
and delays
and slows down projects.
Exactly. We've seen it happen.
Yeah. Policy delays have hurt some hydrogen projects,
They have.
creating uncertainty and discouraging investment.
It's a problem
So we need consistent standards.
for everything. Emissions accounting, safety, labeling different types of hydrogen,
It's about creating a level playing field.
building trust, and attracting investment.
It's laying the groundwork for this new energy ecosystem.
And speaking of groundwork,
Yeah.
the report also talks about research and development.
We need that.
We've made progress.
We have.
But there's still room for improvement.
Lots of room.
And breakthroughs to reduce costs and improve efficiency.
And unlock new applications.
I was really intrigued by the research on natural hydrogen.
Ooh, yeah.
Tapping into natural reserves instead of producing it.
It's mind-blowing.
It's like finding a hidden source of clean energy.
It could be revolutionary.
The report mentions France and Poland
They're updating regulations.
to encourage exploration for natural hydrogen.
That's exciting.
We're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Who knows what we'll discover?
But as we look ahead,
Yeah.
it's clear this transition won't be easy.
There will be bumps in the road.
Challenges, setbacks, obstacles. We've talked about some of them already.
Right.
The cost of capital regulations, infrastructure, water usage
Big challenges.
that will require collaboration, innovation, and adaptation.
We'll need all of that.
It's a journey that will test us,
It will?
but the potential rewards are worth it.
I agree.
A decarbonized economy,
New jobs.
energy security,
A sustainable future.
a cleaner, more equitable world.
It's a vision worth fighting for.
It is. This deep dive has been incredible.
Thank you.
We've covered so much,
Yeah.
but the transition is already happening.
Please.
The momentum is building
Investments are flowing.
and innovations are emerging.
The future of hydrogen is being shaped right now.
So we've covered a ton in this deep dive.
We have.
Production costs, trade geopolitics.
The whole hydrogen landscape.
It's clear hydrogen's going to be huge,
It is.
a key part of the future of energy.
For sure.
But like with any big change,
Yeah,
there are going to be challenges.
definitely.
What are some of the biggest hurdles to realizing hydrogen's full potential?
We've touched on some already.
Right, like costs.
The cost of green hydrogen is still higher.
And then fossil fuels.
Yeah. And then there's infrastructure.
We need a ton of investment.
And then regulation.
They need to catch up,
And we have to make sure we're using water sustainably.
especially for electrolysis.
All these things are connected.
So it's not just about technology.
Right.
It's also about economics
Politics.
and the environment.
It's a systemic challenge.
We need a holistic approach
We do.
to solve all these pieces together.
Exactly.
Take the cost issue.
Okay.
Green hydrogen is getting cheaper,
Uh-huh.
but it's still way more expensive than gray hydrogen.
It is.
So how do we make it truly competitive?
We need to keep pushing down costs
That's
through technology, economies of scale, supportive policies.
so a multi-pronged approach.
We need it all.
And what about infrastructure?
That's a big one.
We're basically building a whole new energy system.
From scratch in many ways.
Production, storage, transport, distribution.
Pipelines, storage facilities, refueling stations, port facilities.
It's a massive undertaking.
It requires a ton of investment.
And coordination.
Really?
We can't just use the old fossil fuel infrastructure.
Yeah, we need something purpose-built for hydrogen.
It's like a giant global puzzle.
It is.
But couldn't we repurpose some existing stuff?
We can?
Like we talked about with those old gas fields?
Turning them into hydrogen storage.
That would speed things up and save money.
It would. It's a smart strategy.
But we also have to be realistic.
Right.
We'll still need to build some new things.
There's no way around it.
It's about finding the right balance.
Using what we have, building what we need.
And then there's water usage
Another big one.
for electrolysis,
Green hydrogen needs water.
which is a problem in water-stressed regions.
It is. We have to be mindful of that.
So what are our options?
We can choose locations with lots of water,
Like coastal areas
where we can use seawater.
for electrolysis, or we can develop new electrolysis tech,
That uses less water.
or even wastewater
And of course, we need to conserve water
throughout the whole process.
every step of the way.
So green hydrogen shouldn't make water scarcity worse.
No, it should contribute to a sustainable water future.
It's about being smart and responsible.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about regulations again. We
Yeah.
touched on them earlier,
Yeah,
but they're super important.
they are.
What do they need to address specifically
Well, first we need clear standards for emissions accounting,
for the whole supply chain?
right from production to use,
How do we measure the carbon footprint of hydrogen?
from different sources,
How do we ensure transparency
and accountability.
so consumers can make informed choices?
Those are key questions.
Regulations need to answer those questions.
They do.
It's about making sure hydrogen production is truly sustainable.
And aligned with climate goals.
And regulations need to address safety, too.
Absolutely.
Hydrogen is flammable.
We need strong safety standards.
For production, storage, transport, and use,
Everything from pipelines to training,
safety is critical.
especially with a new energy carrier like hydrogen,
We need to learn from the past.
and build safety in from the start.
And what about labeling?
Yeah.
We need clear labels for different types of hydrogen.
Like green, blue, gray.
So consumers know what they're buying.
Transparency is key for trust in the market.
It's like creating a whole new language.
For the hydrogen economy.
So everyone's on the same page.
And can make informed decisions.
But what about innovation?
Innovation is crucial.
We talked about the tech race, but are there other areas where it's important?
Definitely we need to push the boundaries.
Okay, like what?
Well, storage is a big one.
Finding better ways to store hydrogen.
Efficiently and cost-effectively.
That's key for scaling up the industry.
Especially for seasonal storage or long-distance transport.
And we need to find new ways to use hydrogen.
New applications.
Beyond just replacing fossil fuels.
Exactly.
Like fuel cells for transport.
Hydrogen-based steel production.
Using it for chemicals and fertilizers.
The possibilities are endless.
So we're expanding the hydrogen ecosystem.
Finding new ways to integrate it into our lives.
It's a hydrogen-powered future.
Driven by clean, sustainable energy.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
We've covered so much ground.
From production to geopolitics to the challenges ahead.
So what's your final message for our listeners?
The hydrogen revolution is here.
It's not some far-off thing.
It's happening now, and it affects everyone.
So stay informed, stay curious, get involved.
Whether you're an investor, a policymaker, a business leader, or just a citizen.
We all have a role to play in this.
The future of hydrogen is in our hands.
That's a great way to put it.
It's time to shape that future.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you learned a lot and got inspired.
Me too.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.